Welcome to lecture 22. So in the last class we have seen how we can solve the circuit by the use of Laplace transform. We have seen how to find the Laplace transform of individual signal, and once I have a combined system representation, how can we find the Laplace transform? And once I know the Laplace transform, also we have seen how can we express the system function, or after finding out the Laplace transform of the system, how can we express it into partial fraction expansion. And once I know the partial fraction expansion, how can we find out the roots, how can we find out the residues, because we have seen three different types of roots: simple, repeated and complex conjugate. And also we have used the standard Laplace transform pair, and with that we can find out the inverse Laplace transform. So solution from that will be same as of you will solve using the time domain approach or the differential approach. And also you can, if you again solve more problems on it, you will be able to know that some sort of information you may reveal in Laplace domain, which you will not able to see in time domain representation or time domain solution, that is by the use of differential approach. Okay, now next we will see the impulse and step response, how to find out the step and impulse response of particular circuit. So what is impulse response? Basically, impulse response is the output of the circuit or output of the network to this impulse function is given as delta of t, and what is the excitation of it, that is y of t, or I will write standard function or standard variable people are using as h of t. Okay, so impulse response is the output of the circuit when the input to the circuit or input to the network is impulse function or delta function. Similarly, step response is the response of the circuit when the input to the circuit is unit step function. Okay, now before going it into detail for finding out the impulse and step response, let us discuss related with the singularity function that we are using, that is impulse function and step function. What is impulse function and what is step function? And also we will see why generally we are using the impulse response or step response for the analysis of circuits. Okay, it is because as we have seen till now, for the network, what kind of input we have given? We have given the DC signal, that is the constant signal, and sinusoidal signal, right? Now what if the input to the circuit is any arbitrary signal? So at that time it is highly difficult for me to generate that signal, right, or to have the ready-made signal which will be arbitrary signal available in ready-made form, and I can apply to the circuit so that I can find out the output. This is not possible, right? As we know, because DC source or the AC source, that is a sinusoidal signal, so we know these are readily available signals, so we can directly apply to the circuit and we can find out the particular current or voltage what I want. But if it is arbitrary signal, it is highly difficult for me to apply to the circuit because these are they are not readily available. So what can be done? So the impulse or step function can be very useful to approximate such kind of arbitrary signals, and then I can use that approximated signal to circuit to find out some particular response wherever I am interested. Okay, so to understand this, first let us see some singularity function that is we discussed. It is a unit step function. We know that the analogy of unit step function is a DC signal or constant DC excitation, and it is represented as u of t, which is 1 for t is greater than or equal to 0, and it is 0 for t less than 0. And graphically, how can we see that this is my t and this is my u of t? So from minus infinity to here the magnitude is 0, and at t is equal to 0, what I have seen, it changes abruptly the value from 0 to 1. Okay, and after that it remains constant. This is my unit step signal. Now some shifted versions, if I can write, I can draw this way also. Suppose I would like to draw what is my u of t minus 2, which is shifted by an amount of 2 towards right, this way. Okay, if it is a u of t plus 4, how can we write that? This will be shifted by 4 towards left. So this is your time advance signal. Okay, so that way you can draw any variant of unit step signal. Okay, and with this variant you can approximate some signal that we'll see in short. Okay, now suppose such kind of signal, that is unit step signal, if I'll give it to say the inductor and as voltage as an as voltage, suppose this u of t as an voltage signal, I will give it to the inductor and let me find out what is the current through it. So what will be the current through the inductor if I'll apply the unit step signal as an voltage source to the inductor? What will happen? It will be your v of t is constant, so it is 1, so it will be t. Okay, so how is the current is linearly increasing in this case, right? Okay, so this will be my current here if I'll apply the DC source as an voltage across inductor. Fine, so what is going on? Current is increasing linearly, so such kind of signal is called as ramp signal or ramp function, and basically the people are using the notation for ramp function is r of t, and which I can write as t into u of t, where t will be greater than or equal to 0 and it is 0 elsewhere. Okay, what if I'll give a unit step function as current through the inductor, and let me find out what is the voltage of across inductor. So it will be L di by dt. So now my current is suppose unit step, so what it will be, how will be the voltage? Here I will draw. Suppose I'll give the current as in this. Okay, so what will be the, and I would like to find out what is the voltage across it. Okay, so what will be the voltage across it? How will it be? It will be all 0 except at t is equal to 0, when there is a discontinuity, right? So such kind of signal is called a delta function. Okay, so in short, what I wanted to tell, say if I have ramp signal, okay, if I have, let's say, a ramp signal like this, and if I differentiate it, if I am differentiating it, okay, so what I am getting here I am getting the constant signal, that is u of t, which is 1, and again if I am differentiating u of t, one kind of funny signal I'll get, that is my impulse response, which will be the infinite magnitude at t is equal to 0. So this is my direct delta function or impulse function, and the symbol for delta function is delta of t, and it is written generally is 1 at t is equal to, means it is having infinite magnitude for very short duration time, and the property is that area under that curve, that is delta of t dt, also always has to be 1 for the implementation purpose. Okay, so that way you can define the delta function. Right, now again impulse function you can see, or let us elaborate that impulse function. So what I'll start with some modified ramp function, for example like this. Okay, say I have a ramp function this way, say this is my a, b, and magnitude is say 1, suppose one signal, let's say I of t. Okay, now I will take the differentiation here. So what will I get? The differentiation of ramp will be my pulse function, right? So like this I'll get it from a to b, and say this width is my c, so this is my c width, and what will be c? C will be b minus a. Okay, so what is my di by dt here? What is the slope? So di by dt will be, say this is my x1 x2 x1 y1 x2 y2, so y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1, which is 1 over c. So how much will be this magnitude? This magnitude will be 1 by c. Okay, so what I am observing, if I differentiate this RAM, which is from A to B, what I'll get it? I'll get it one box function, which is like this. Okay. And again, what I have observed, that area under this box function is 1. Okay. So area of that pulse is unity, and this will be unity for any value of t you take it. Okay. So we can also say something like this: as c approaches 0, what will happen? The modified, as c, let's say where it is, as c approaches 0, what will happen? The modified ramp function approaches to unit step function. Okay, unit function. And at the same time, the pulse approaches towards infinite height and 0 width. Okay, so with what will happen? Infinite height when the width is 0. And what is that? The thing is that the area under the curve of this function remains constant for any value of c. For example, let us say this. Say I have like this. Okay, one box function I have. This is c and this is 1 by c. Okay, so area under the function, area under this function, say function is x of t, so area under the curve is 1. Okay, now I will reduce c. So what will happen? C will reduce like this. So ultimately, as my area under the curve has to be 1, your height will increase. Okay, so this height will be 1 over c. Fine. Now again, if I reduce this width, what will happen? Height will increase, it will be 1 over c. So like this, if I'll go to c is very short, or c tends to 0, what will be happen? Your height will be infinite, and this infinite height with the 0 width is nothing but your direct delta, or direct delta function, or your can say your impulse function. Okay, so this way you can define the impulse function or the direct delta function. Okay, so you can say that if it is a ramp function, you differentiate it, you will get a unit step function d dt. Okay, now if unit step function, if you will differentiate it, what you will get? A delta function. And now if you integrate this, you will get unit step, and if you integrate unit step, you will get ramp, right? Because as you can say, this is my delta function. Delta function representation in continuous domain is this, this, and there is arrow. Okay, like this. So if I would like to find out the area, what is from here to this point, area is 0, but after that what is happening? T is greater, area is 1, right? So if I'll integrate it from t is greater than 0 to infinity, what will happen? Area under the curve is 1. So if I'll integrate the delta, I'll get it the unit step. Okay, now this basic functions, you know it. Right. Now with this basic function, what next I will do? I will try to approximate the functions. Say I would like to, this is my arbitrary function, pulse only, but let's say a1 and a1, and say height is k. Okay, so if say this, I would like to give it to my circuit. So this is not readily available. So what I can do, you can have the two unit step functions. One is from starting from a, this will be u of t minus a, and second function will start from a1. Okay, which will be u of t minus a1, right? And if you subtract it, you will get it this function, right? So this is not readily available, but this you can approximate by the use of readily available function, which is your DC function, right? Which is DC excitation, right? And what is the magnitude here? K. It was from a1. Okay, so I can show from a1 here. So at time t is equal to a1, I'll apply, let's say, some k magnitude. Okay, I'll apply, and after certain time I'll apply again another ramp. Okay, so what will happen? And if I'll subtract it, I'll get it this, and this I'll apply to the circuit, and I can find out my required response. Similarly, say if I want to apply this function, which is like this. Okay, say this is 0, this is t, and suppose this is my t by 2, which say magnitude is 1, say any x1 of t. Okay, and I would like to check what is the response of the circuit. So what can be done? You can apply here ramp function and you can approximate it also. Okay, so how will it be? So you can create one ramp whose slope will be 2 by t. Okay, at t is equal to t by 2, because you have to terminate it, right? So ramp is terminating at t by 2. So if you want to terminate it, after termination again it is going in negative slope. So what it will be, you have to create like this. So slope will be t by 4 minus, sorry, not t by 4, but it will be minus 4 by t, minus 4 by t. Okay, now what happened? Okay, this has been terminated, but it will go this way. But here at t, what you have to, again you have to end it here, right? So what can be done? This was there, minus 4 by t, and this has to be end. So I will add one more slope with 2 by t, so it will be terminating at t. Okay, so this way you can create. And if you write mathematical x2 of t will be 2 by t, ramp is t into u of t, minus 4 by t, t minus t by 2 into u of t minus t by 2, and plus 2 by t, t minus capital T into u of t minus capital T. So this way mathematically also you can express it, right? Now suppose I would like to generate the one function like this, only this part of this sinusoidal signal, say some magnitude 1, say something 0 to, let's say 2, 3, what, some numerical value. Okay, so how can we construct this function? This I will take two sinusoidal functions. One is this way, okay, and second I'll shift it, and then I'll take it this with same magnitude, and if I'll subtract both these signs, I'll get it this. Okay, so this way also I can construct it. Fine. Now this is okay. This is we can do it, right? So this way we can say that by the use of step or ramp for sine signals are acting as a basic building block to construct the signal. Now if I'll ask you to draw the whatever the signal we have seen, that is ramp, unit step and sine, I'll ask you to represent such kind of thing, that is, let's say this, which is smooth, okay, or something like this. Okay, so it is highly difficult to approximate, say this is x of t or y of t. You can give the names for individual signal. So suppose if I would like to approximate it, so it is highly difficult to approximate using either unit step, ramp or sine, right? So what is the option? How can I do it? So what can I do? Only one option is that is your impulse function. Right? Before going it into impulse function, later what way we can approximate? Okay, so suppose I'll take this signal. So I will form like this. This way I can approximate with the help of the box, right? Isn't it? So if I'll this is okay, this is the case. Here this will not come. Okay, so in order to approximate and such kind of arbitrary smooth signal, what is the option? Option is, if I'll construct the boxes like this or the pulses like this, okay, I will approximate this x of t. Or if I'll take the exponential decreasing signal also like this, so how can I approximate? I will do this box, then second was the same size box or same width box, then I will shift it. I'll write it this. Again I'll shift this box, I have represented. I'll shift this box. So assume that the width of each box is same. Okay, this way you can represent it, right? So suppose this is the box whose width is, let's say, tau here. So how much will be this? This magnitude will be your x of tau, as it is x of t. Okay. So any arbitrary signal can be represented by the sum of boxes, and this can be called as pulse function, right? So how is my pulse function? That also we can define it. So p delta of t, for example, in most of the books the representation is like this. That's why I am writing here. So suppose this is delta and this is 1. So if I will scale this delta function by the inverse of delta, that is 1 over delta into p delta t, what will happen? This will be again approximating my delta function with limit delta tends to 0, which is again delta function, right? Okay. So this way also the box also you can approximate to the delta function this way. What is it? Limit delta tends to 0 scaled by 1 over delta to p delta of t. So this concept also can be used for the approximation of any arbitrary signal. So let us say for one box, how can we do it? So this box, whatever we written this, say this box I'll use to represent this magnitude. Okay, so how can we write it? We can, this is t, then same width will be shifted by what's it, so it will be 2 tau, this will be 3 tau, 4 tau, 5 tau, like this. Okay, so this I can write x of tau. X of tau will be the magnitude at that duration, that is tau duration, into box function, and again it has been shifted by an amount of tau. That way we can approximate the signal using this box, then shifted amount, right? So in order to do that, first let us see in discrete domain. So suppose this is in this delta form. So suppose this width is delta 2 delta 3 delta 4 delta, like this. So in discrete form also I can write, which will be x of n delta, that is x of delta 2 delta 3 delta 4 delta, which will be the magnitude at that particular delta instant, into the box, that is box function, which we have represented 1 over delta into p delta t minus n delta. Okay, yeah, 1 by delta will not come. So what it will be, x of n will be varying from, let's say, minus infinity to plus infinity for any values of n. Okay, into multiplied by p delta shifted by an amount of delta terms, right? Okay, so this way you can approximate this. And again let me slightly modify this by 1 over delta into delta. So this will be approximately my x of t. Okay, so this arbitrary x of t I can represent it. I can represent this way also. Okay? So observe that if I'll make this delta as small as possible. Okay, so what will happen? Because here again I am observing that, okay, some delta, some duration I have taken, but still I am observing that, okay, there is this error, right? So that's why it is approximately. Okay, now I want to reduce this error as much as possible. So what can be done? That is possible by reducing the width of your box function, right? So when will be accurate? When my delta will tends to 0, right? And when delta will tends to 0, what does it mean? That will be as good as the representation of my direct delta or impulse function. Okay, and this is what the reason I multiply with 1 over delta into delta. So this box function also, limit delta tends to 0, 1 over delta into box function the pulse function and delta, this will be nothing but my delta t minus n delta. Okay, this way also I can approximate it. So let us put it here. So it will be limit. Understood what we are saying basically? If I'll try to reduce the width as close as possible, or delta tends to 0, it act as a impulse function, and if all the width is very close to each other, it will looks like your continuous domain form, and that we are going to approximate here right now. So limit delta tends to 0, what was previously n is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity, x of n delta 1 over delta p delta t minus n delta into what was that, delta, and if delta tends to 0, it will be exactly equal to x of t. Okay, so this way I can approximate x of t accurately by assuming delta tends to 0. So if this is the case, it will behave as the continuous form domain, right? Because what will happen, previously we were doing that way, right? So now if previously we were approximating using this boxes, okay, that way, some shape like this. Now what I am doing it now. So any signal I have, so I'll make it the boxes whose width is 0. So what it will represent in continuous form, because your samples will be very very close with each other. Okay, so that is what we are going to do here. So this will be n delta, let me represent with tau in continuous form as I want to write it. So this will also be tau. What is this? 1 over delta p delta t minus, so it will be a delta function, delta t minus tau. Okay, this is over, and this delta will be a small step d tau, right? So and this can be approximated in continuous form. So if it is a continuous form, it will be minus infinity to plus infinity, your x of tau into delta t minus tau d tau, and this has to be equal to x of t. So with this, what we have done, we have represented, or we have approximated x of t accurately by the use of this, that is the multiplication of x of tau. X of tau is your scaling value, right, which is the amplitude at tau, and it is multiplying with delta t minus tau. So this way, by the use of impulse function, we can approximate any arbitrary function exactly. So that is why the impulse function is very important here. Now let us apply this delta function to our circuit, and our circuit, we assume that this is our LTI circuit, because already at the start we have seen the definition of linear time and invariant, right? And say this represented with operator H. So this is my LTI, and this represented with H. Now to this, any arbitrary x of t, I'll apply it, any arbitrary x of t, and I would like to find out what is my y of t. Okay, any arbitrary. So what can be done? Any arbitrary is not readily available, so this I can approximate using this, and let me apply this excitation to LTI system, and let us see what will be my output in this case. Okay, so your output y of t will be the system operator now, and applying on x of t. And what is x of t? We have approximated this. All we are talking in terms of the signal or excitation which we are applying and which is not readily available. Okay, so minus infinity to plus infinity, x of tau delta of t minus tau into d tau. Fine. So this is what I would like to find out, what is the h of t, what is y of t. Okay, so if I am applying this operator on it, it will not affect on x of tau, because this is your constant magnitude, some scalar value. So I'll take it x of t as it is, but what it will affect on the delta function, delta of t minus tau, which is d tau. Okay, so this y of t I can write as minus infinity to plus infinity x of tau. So delta of t by applied on the system whose operator is h, and I will get it some transformed version, right? So that transformed version is suppose h, and this will be h of t minus tau d tau, because it is a time invariant. So output will also be h of t minus capital tau to satisfy the time invariance and causality property. So this way I have defined one very well known equation, that is y of t is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of tau into h of t minus tau d tau, and this is very well known integral. We know it, that is called as your convolution integral. Okay, so this is the convolution integral, and now once you know your x of the input which is to be given, and once you know what is the impulse which will be giving to the circuit, and you know what is the impulse response, then you can find out the output at any point t or at any time t. Okay. So this is very important to find out the output of any LTI system, and impulse response generally will give us the characteristic of the system, right? Because in every normal day, if even though we are human being, if every normal day our behavior will be same, right? But if I would like to extract the characteristic of that particular individual human being, and I would like to know what are its original things or original characteristics, so what I'll apply some pressure on it, I'll give it some stress, and then I will able to identify, okay, how is the person he is, right? So under pressure, actually the system will be giving me the characteristics, or I'll be able to know the characteristics of it, right? So similarly, if I'll apply the impulse and I'll know what is the impulse response, so from that impulse response I am quite confident to determine the characteristic of the system. Okay. Now next we'll see one or two problems on the convolution, how to find out the y of t using convolution integral. In short, you know it now. So generally what is the process? First, if the x of t is given to you, impulse response is given to you, first you plot x of tau and h of tau. Okay, then once you know this, next what you flip any one of, because this again I have forgotten to tell you, this you can write as x of t convolved with h of t, or this is a commutative also, so h of t you can convolve with, so any one of the signal you can flip it to get it x of h of t minus tau or x of t minus tau. Here I'll write h of t minus tau to get it h of, say flip h of tau to get h of minus tau, then shift this signal towards extreme left to find h of t minus tau, and then find the overlapping area. Okay, so what is the overlapping area for that particular duration? Okay, so let us take it one simple example. Suppose I have the unit step signal like this. One is x of t here, x of t, and second, suppose the same impulse response I have. Okay, say this is h of t also. So what first step is, you plot both x of tau and h of tau. So same simple t replaced by dummy variable tau. Then plot h of tau also, so like this, and then shift, first flip either one of the signal. Let me flip h of tau to get it h of minus tau. So it will looks like it, and then you shift this to extreme left to get it h of t minus tau. So how will it be? This will be h of t minus tau, something like this. This will be, say, any t. Okay, and now I would like to find out what is the overlapping area between this with this. So if I shift this signal towards right here. Now what was, let me draw here x of tau like this. Okay, so now if I'll shift this towards right, what will happen? Your y of t or the overlapping area is 0, but when if it cross this point, say this is my h of t, I am shifting this way. Now if it is crossing, what is happening? Overlapping area is this, right? 0 to t. Again if I am shifting, overlapping area is this. So it is what happened, linearly it is increasing. So that also you can find out for what value of t will be always greater than or equal to 0, right? Because it is 0. So once it is greater than or equal to 0, your overlapping area starts. But when it is t less than 0, overlapping is 0. So y of t is 0. When t is greater than 0, what will be y of t? Your integral will be 0 to t. X of tau is 1, h of t minus tau is also 1. So it is simply t. Okay, this is my resultant convolution output, or this is the output of the network if my x of t is unit step and impulse response is also unit step. So again, let me again second example. Suppose x of tau is this, h of tau I have plotted directly now. So h of tau is like this. This is 0. Okay, I'll take 0 to 1. What is in that? Nothing. 0 to 1. So now I will flip this h of tau to get it h of minus tau. So here I will draw again. This is x of tau. What will be h of minus tau? This will be like this, minus 1. To make it generalize, h of t minus tau. So what will be, if this edge is t, what about this edge? This edge will be t minus tau. Okay, this is x of tau, all are with respect to tau, it is okay. Now when the overlapping will start between h of t minus tau and let me draw with other pen. This is my x of tau. So when the overlapping will start, I'll shift now this towards right. So when t is less than 0, there is no overlapping area, but when t crosses this edge of x of tau, your overlapping area will start. Okay, so it is like this, right? So suppose this is t, what about this? T minus tau. So your overlapping area is from 0 to t. Again, if you shift, your overlapping area is 0 to t, right? So up to what time it will, the overlapping area will remain same? When t minus tau is less than 0, your overlapping area will be between 0 to t. Okay, means what? T is less than tau. Correct, no? So when t minus tau is less than 0, your overlapping area remains same. Okay, so what is my overlapping area? Now it will be 0 to t. Okay, so that you can put it, you can find out y of t, which will be 0 to t. All our magnitude is 1 and 1, so it will be simply t. Okay, now what is happening now? T minus tau, and now not tau here. I'm sorry. Let me correct this. This is not t minus tau. Yeah, it's t, h of t minus tau, but it is t, and this will be minus 1. Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is, make a correction. So t minus 1. So this will be t minus 1. Okay, that's why I thought how tau came. So this will be t minus 1 is less than 1. So t is less than 1. Means what? The overlapping area is t is greater than 0 and it is less than 1. Okay, so this y of t will be from where to where? When t is between 0 to 1. Now what is happening? When t minus 1 has crossed 0. So now how is the situation? Your x of tau was like this. Okay, and how is my h of t minus tau now? If this has been crossed, that is t minus 1 has been crossed this first stage of x of tau, it will, overlapping area will be from t minus 1 to t. Okay, so when t minus 1 greater than 0, so t is greater than 0, and it will be for what? Then after that overlapping area will remain same for infinity also. Okay, So what will be my y of t? Y of t will be t minus 1 to t overlapping area 1 dt. Okay, so it will be some constant, right? So t minus t plus 1, it will be constant area. This is constant area. So how is the y of t for this problem? From 0 to 1, your overlapping area is increasing linearly, and from 1 to onwards, what is happening? Your overlapping area is constant. So this is my resultant y of t. So this way you can determine the y of t using the convolution integral. Basically, what is convolution integral? Convolution integral is the procedure by which you can find the output of any LTI system with the help of its impulse response. Impulse response is very important, and this way you can find it out. Okay, so here so many steps we have to follow, right? So if I'll use the Laplace instead of this, instead of doing this time domain manipulation, by the use of Laplace, we have seen that property, that is, if I will convolve x of t with h of t, what is the Laplace? It will be simply the multiplication of x of s with h of s, and then take the inverse, you will get it y of t, which is same as of this, right? So either you can do such time domain manipulation, or you just find out what is the Laplace of x of t, h of t, simply multiply it and take it the inverse, you will get it the same output. Okay, so using in transformation domain to compute the convolution, I think is easy than that of the computation in time domain. As these are easy signal, that's why it's okay. But if I will use the Laplace transform approach, definitely the solution will be easy for me. Okay, so here we stop. Thank you very much.